Welcome to the Karen Kenney Show. Hey, you guys, welcome to the Karen Kenney Show. I'm super duper excited to be here with you today. And I'm just going to dive right into this sucker. So, one of the things that happens a lot in my life is that I'll be talking with my sweetie about something that's going on with me or the world or a thought that I'm having or whatever. He's the person that I tend to like bounce a lot of things off of first and foremost. Number one, because he lives with me. He's kind of he's kind of stuck with me. But we were having a conversation the other day about my business. And I uttered something out loud and I thought, oh, this would be great for me to talk about on the show. So here we are. That's where this idea came from today. So I'm going to call this sucker, I think, something like the commitment business. The commitment business, because that's basically what I said to him. And before we dive into the story, let's just kind of break down this word commitment. I think we all have some experience with this word, whether it's positive, negative, whatever. Maybe you dated somebody who wouldn't quote unquote commit. Maybe you find yourself overly committed these days. But let's get into it. So when we look at the word commitment as a noun, here's some of the several meanings of this word. Number one, it's an agreement or a pledge to do something in the future. Okay, so a commitment maybe to improve working conditions or a commitment to your favorite football team. Okay, it could be an engagement to assume also a financial obligation at a future date, right? Making a financial commitment. There's also pledging something that you pledge, a commitment to support the troops or whatever. All right, I'm just making these up. A commitment to, oh, this is the next meaning, a promise to be loyal to someone or something. We're going to get into that one as well. And then the last one we'll use for today is the attitude of someone who works hard to do or to support something. And I love this idea of commitment. I talk about it a lot, especially with my clients, and sometimes when I'm talking about having a daily spiritual practice. I always talk about the 5 Ds of a DSP, a daily spiritual practice. And I tend to use D words, right? Dedication, determination, discipline, and devotion, which are very similar to this idea of commitment. And I think this show today is important because my hope is that by the end of it, you're going to get a little more clarity, like I did, about what you're actually committing to these days. Some other words, though, real quick, because I'm kind of a word geek, that are similar synonyms to commitment are things like dedication, loyalty, allegiance, devotion, fidelity, faithfulness, steadfastness, which is one of my favorite words, faith, constancy, consistency. Okay. These are all really important things. So here's the story piece of this. I was talking to my sweetie because we were planning a couple of classes together. And we were planning like live music and yoga classes. And I had been asked to teach a yoga class at a location here in New Hampshire. And I have my own little space, my own little studio where I teach my classes, but this was like in addition to. And when I was talking with the people who were hosting the class, who were hosting me, we were talking about like, hey, do we want to make this a commitment-based class, or do we want to just do it as a drop-in, meaning people can do whatever they want to do, show up, not show up. So they're not committed until they go in the room and like pay the money. And I basically was saying to them, well, look, I'm in the commitment business. That's how I run my business. So this is like, hosted at your place. So we can do it however you want to do it. I tend to be like, again, like I said, like helping people to commit up front. And there's a reason why I do that, which I'm going to get into in a minute. But when you look at the way that I work, if I work with somebody in one-to-one spiritual mentoring, right, they have to commit to a certain amount of time. It's not like, oh, let's just do 1 month and then see how it goes, right? Whenever you're working with me, whether it's in a day long, like a hot day, which is just a day of coaching over Voxer. So you don't even have to get on, you don't even have to commit to getting on a call, right? You can just commit to using the Voxer app so you can do voice messaging and text messaging or whatever. And that's really great for some people because they don't want to commit They don't want to commit to like having to be on screen and be seen and sit their ass down for this specific amount of time, right? Day of Voxing. A day of Voxer coaching for some people works great because what you're committing to is either like a 3 hour chunk of time or a 6 hour chunk of time, but it allows a little bit more freedom in your day. But they're still committing to that 3 hour chunk or that 6 hour chunk. If somebody works with me in one-to-one spiritual mentoring for the quest, which is like a 4 month commitment, they're committing to that 4 months, we're committing that we're working together. When people sign up for my yoga class, the ones that I lead from my own space, right? I'm like an old school Kripalu yoga teacher. So the way that we do it is you commit to an 8 week chunk of classes. So it's not, and the reason why I do that, and this is kind of getting to the heartbeat of this episode, is that I know humans. I know human nature. I know what it's like to be a person when you're just tired at the end of the day and you just don't feel like going. And one of the things that I know to be true is, and people will often say, oh, well, you get them to commit because that helps you as a business. Yes, because I'm not an idiot, right? What I mean is like, I've done this long enough to understand the psychology of how people behave. So what I have found is not only does it help me because people are committing and paying up front for that chunk of classes, right? It also helps them, right? And that I'm in the business of commitment, but I'm also in the business of helping people keep their word to themselves, helping people commit to their own change and transformation. And I just know that when people have, committed, and said, I'm going to show up, if they commit up front, then they will usually do much better at showing up each week. If you just say to people, right, like for example, if you've ever belonged to a yoga studio, they'll say, okay, here's a 10 class pass. Well, a 10 class pass that has a year to expire, people will often be incredibly sporadic because they're like, oh, I've got a year to use these 10 classes. That's not even one class a month. I'll just go when I feel like it. To me, that is not commitment. Do you know what I mean? The only thing, and I've said this before to a client, oh, the only thing you've committed so far is your money. And for some people, it's very easy to commit money and have no follow through, which we're going to get into in a minute. Okay. If you say, hey, you have a monthly membership and I'm making this up, it's $150, right? But you can just come whenever you want to. Again, most people a lot of the times will just commit the money. They won't actually do the action. So the way that I've learned over the years is to help people keep their word to themselves, to their own intention, their own habit formation that they're trying to create, a new identity they're trying to create, that the change that they want to experience is to help them to commit. So I am in the business of commitment. You can't work with me like sporadically or wishy-washy, right? One of the things I often say to people is the universe cannot get behind wishy-washy. You have to commit. And I'm going to share with you one of my favorite quotes on commitment after we're done talking. And one of the other reasons why I wanted to talk about this today is my own show. You know how I often say, you guys, that I do this podcast from my ears first, meaning a lot of times I'm talking to quote unquote you, but I'm also talking to myself because I need to hear, right, from that smarty pants part of myself, the divine intelligence that is in me and moves through me. And we all have it. I'm not special, right? It's often like message to self first and foremost. So this is for me just as much as it is for you. So I'm in the business of commitment and helping people to show up for themselves, because if you don't show up, you don't actually change. And I kind of just want to talk about the way that we sabotage this idea of commitment. And one of the perfect examples I can give you is Planet Fitness. If you have ever been a member to Planet Fitness, the gym, right, their model is a very low buy-in rate. So it used to be $10 a month, and then there's like usually a little annual fee. Now they've finally bumped it after years and years and years. And I used to work for Planet Fitness way back in like 1998 or 1999, like way back in the day. I was a personal trainer for them, and I taught yoga like on the side there. But what their model does is they're so smart. Let me break it down for you. So what they know is that people will often be willing to commit a certain amount of money. They may not follow up with any action, but Planet Fitness doesn't care. I'm not saying the trainers who work there and stuff don't care, but as a corporation, as a larger entity, they're banking on you committing your $15 a month or your $24.99 black card, whatever a month, and then probably not showing up, which is great for them because it's less wear and tear, right? On the equipment, on the locker rooms, on the paper products, on the cleaning products, right? Less bodies in the space, less maintenance, less work that they have to do. You sometimes like less people they have to hire, whatever. But they're banking on the human behavior of, I will commit my money, but not my action. And a lot of times people are way more committed to an idea of doing something than actually doing it. Like so many people are committed to the idea of change and they'll say, oh, yeah, I want things to change. But when you ask them what they're doing to participate in the change actually happening, they often just stare at you with a blank face. People often want the change without doing the work. Not everybody, I'm just saying a lot of people. You may have even experienced this with yourself. You might say, like, oh, I want to do X, Y, and Z. And you get all jazzed up and you're like, I'm going to do the thing, da 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 da. But when it actually comes to putting that action into place, whether that's actually creating a plan, laying your clothes out the night before, prepping your meals, like setting up the appointment, like whatever the thing is, we're more enamored and committed to the idea than to actually taking the action. And, it was interesting because when I was talking to my sweetie, he was talking about how, as a professional musician, people often come up to him at his gigs or events or whatever afterwards to talk to him, whether it's about his guitar or to tell him that they are either also a musician. But one of the biggest things he gets is that people will come up to him and say to him, I've always wanted to learn how to play guitar. And he will always look at them and he'll say, well, he doesn't say that. In my mind, I'm like this. Well, you're not dead yet, right? If you're alive and you're nimble and you have a guitar, you have access to an instrument, you can learn. And he'll say to them, well, you can still learn, but what it means is you actually have to practice. So, we laugh because a lot of times when we watch a TV show or you see somebody on a Zoom call or whatever, a lot of times I will see instruments in the background. And we often laugh about how the cool guy always has like the guitar on the wall in the background, right? And whenever we see that, like in real life, he says, I wonder how many people actually play them, right? They're there, but do they actually pick them up and play them? And he said to me, he's like, it's interesting. Like there are certain gigs that he does or whatever. And the same people will like come to that gig. And even if it's a once a year gig, the same people will come up to him because like the first time they'll say to him, oh, I really want to learn how to play guitar. And he'll say, okay, like this is you just got to pick it up, man. Learn a few chords, like da 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 da, right? Like he supports them and he's very, very encouraging. And then he'll see them the following year at the same event and he'll say, how's it going? Like, how's it going? Like with the learning the guitar. And they'll say, oh yeah, I haven't really started yet. And he's like, this happens year after year after year. People will have the guitar just sitting there collecting dust. And that's a really good example of like, you're committed, what you're committed to. Well, all your commitment level, you were committed enough to buy a guitar maybe, but that was it. And the sneaky thing about this, right? The sneaky thing about this with the brain is you get that little dopamine hit, right? Like you get that sense of satisfaction of checking something off the list, right? Like there are people who are like, I'm going to start working out or I'm going to start coming to yoga. and they'll buy some yoga pants, they'll get their yoga mat, they'll get their props, but then they never do it because you get that little hit, you get that little rush from just doing that part of it, right? You committed just enough, but not enough to be effective, not enough to actually like create change. So it's a really humans, we're so interesting. And I'm not trying to be mean to everybody. The reason why I'm talking about this today is I want to put forth, because this is the question I just had to ask myself, right? In 2026, in this span of months or whatever, in this made up time, right? This made up time frame or whatever, like, what am I committed to this year? And that is often paired with the same question I asked a couple of podcasts ago, which is like, how much bandwidth do you actually have? Like, how much capacity, like resources, time, money, attention, energy, whatever, do you actually have? So we have to be really selective. We have to be really like wicked clear about what actually matters to us. And if we're wasting a lot of time doing shit that at the end of the day, like I literally think memento mori, right? Like I'm very aware of my own mortality and the fact that I'm going to die. So I'm always like, okay, with the amount of time that I have left, what do I want to spend my time doing and who do I want to do it with? Where am I pouring my vital resources into? You can't get time back. You know what I mean? And it's like if you're wasting your time hanging out with people you don't like, who are doing shit you don't really want to do, like we have to check ourselves. If we're putting more time into, and I'm just making these up, right? Like sitting on our ass when we said, I want to run a 5K this year, or I want to get stronger because the doctor told me that my bone density isn't great, but yet you're not lifting weights, or like, and I use physical stuff because that's just like easier sometimes. It could be, I want to commit to not smoking. I want to commit to spending more time with my kids. I want to commit to, for me, right? Because I was just going to say this, like finishing your book, writing your book. That is one of my commitments this year. I've talked about it in the past. And look, the reality of it is when you're an entrepreneur, there's 1,000 ways to get distracted. There's 1,000 ways to be like, oh, but I have to focus on keeping a roof over my head, making money, X, Y, and Z. But at the end of the day, at the end of my life, I'm not going to regret not having more yoga classes, right? I will regret not finishing this book. So that's one of my commitments to myself. And that's the key there, the commitment to yourself. And I'm hitting my chest when I do this. This is why we really have to know ourselves, understand who we are, what we really want, and understand how we self-sabotage about the things that we say we really want. Because it's really easy to do lip service and to say, well, I'm committed to this thing when you're really not. And my sweetie said to me, some people just actually have, he goes, some people have no commitment. And I said to him, I disagree. And he's like, what do you mean? And I said, I think everybody has commitment. But I just think some people are committed to not committing. I'll say that again. I think some people are committed to not committing, right? And I just think like to not commit is really easy. It's another way that we kind of get out of, what's the word I'm looking for? Let me say it this way. It's another way that we actually try to protect ourselves. And maybe you've done this yourself. I know I did it when I was younger, for sure, which is you're too afraid to fail, so you do it half-ass. And then if you do fail, nobody can make fun of you or make you feel bad or stupid or whatever, because you can just shrug it off and say to yourself, yeah, but I didn't really try that hard anyways. Because we're afraid of our own capacity to actually do a thing. And, there's certain things you just have to go full bore in. Like I would just not be interested in being married to somebody who was like half committed. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want a business partner who's like, yeah, kind of gives a shit. You know what I mean? It's like, I really geek out on people who are really consistent and committed. And yes, that does something, of course, selfishly to my nervous system. When people are really wishy-washy, right? That's not that soothing to be around when you're like, I don't know, do they even really give a shit about me or this person or this project or this thing? Like, I can't rely on them because they're so wishy-washy, right? It's really nice to be in the presence of people who are committed to their word and to their work and to doing their best to commit. If they say like, hey, that's why I don't make promises in my business. People will like, well, if I spend this money and I work with you, are you guaranteeing, are you promising that I'm going to have this change? And I said, no, I can't promise that. You know why? Because I can't promise your level of commitment. I can only promise you, I'm like, here's what I can promise you. I'm going to fucking show up. I'm going to show up 110%. I'm going to be here and I'm going to support you and guide as much as I can and cheerlead and try to extract from you and show you your own brilliance and your own genius. And I'm also probably going to point out a little bit of your own bullshit, right? In a kind way, in a loving but firm way. We can laugh about it. I can't, though, guarantee your level of commitment. Again, because sometimes people will just commit their money, but they won't actually, they'll commit with their word, whatever, but they don't actually uh, commit to doing the action, to taking the action. And if you find that you're a person who is more committed to the idea of a thing, like you get really excited, and this shows up perhaps in your life, and we've all done this, right? I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. But if you're a person who tends to start a lot of things but doesn't finish them, right? You'll see like, oh, I wasn't committed to seeing this through. You might just be committed to getting that first dopamine rush, or maybe you just got bored of it. And I don't think we should see every single thing in our life through. There are times when you have to realize halfway, oh, the most committed thing, the thing I can be most committed to here is the integrity of realizing I made a mistake and I shouldn't follow through on this, right? Like we got to be willing to say like, ooh, yeah, quitting this would be the best commitment I could make right now. So, yeah, so this is really just an invitation to look at the different buckets in your life and to look at maybe your financial life. Like maybe you said, I'm committed to saving money this year, but you haven't really been doing that. You didn't set up an automatic deposit, or you didn't set up a jar at home where you put some extra cash in, or whatever the thing is. So look at the areas of like finance, look at the areas of relationships, right? Look at the areas of your work, your mental health, your well-being, your physical being. So just look at those four buckets of like physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, and say like, how committed am I? And then just getting really clear about what you have the time, the energy, the resources, whatever, to commit to it. Because there's only so much bandwidth. There's so many hours in a day. And we don't want to be wasting our time, man. Like we're at an age where it's like, again, I come back to this thing where I say the universe can't get behind wishy-washy. So getting some clarity, like get out some colored pens or something. I'm holding these up. Get yourself a notebook, you know what I mean? Holding that up. And like write some shit down. Just get really clear. It's only February, right? So maybe you started January with this idea of like, this is what I'm going to commit to. This is what I'm going to do. And here you are in February and you're realizing like, oh, that's not quite it. Great. Tweak it. You get to change your mind. That's awesome. There's a difference between changing your mind, right, and being fickle, right? Just being like, I don't feel like it. You know what I mean? There are plenty of days where I'm like, I don't feel like lifting these weights right now. And I love to lift. I love to strength train. But there are just days I am not in the mood. I don't feel like it. You know what I say to myself? It doesn't matter that you don't feel like it. And it's one of the things that I often to say to people, like about the gym or yoga or hiking or moving your body, going for a run, whatever the thing is, right? I often say, I never regret coming to yoga afterwards. I never regret going to the gym afterwards. I never regret, I mean, unless I hurt myself or something, that would be another thing. But it is so rare. I have almost never regretted moving my body. You know, that some of the things, though, because we're talking about these actions that I think need to be on the list, though, is what is your commitment to justice? What is your commitment to inclusion? What is your commitment to kindness? What is your commitment to compassion? What is your commitment to being a good neighbor? What is your commitment to voting? What is your commitment to these things that really, really matter? And they matter. Sorry, I'm getting blinded by the sun coming in over here. What really matters in this world beyond just us, because it's so easy to get focused on the me, 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 me. Um, but our levels of commitment also affect our loved ones, our family, our neighbors, our community, our city, our country. You know what I mean? So also looking at that, like, am I committed? As a kid who was raised, like I laugh and I think about this, you know, so many of us who are Gen X people, like we were raised partially by the television. Our friends did it, like we all raised each other because we were all feral. We all kind of raised each other, but we also were raised by like, Bob Ross and Steve Irwin and Fred Rogers. And they had commitment, they had commitment to us and they taught us so many things. But those things don't mean anything if we don't apply them and put them into action. Now, look, those might not be your guys. You might not resonate with them. Maybe for you, it was like the Electric Company or Sesame Street or some other like books you read, whatever. Like for me too, right? There are certain characters in certain books. Like I love a book, any kind, whether it's Stephen King, the Dark Tower series, to the Harry Bosch series by Michael Conley. I love people with a code. I'm really into that, right? I love stories of characters that have a code because that's their level of commitment. They are committed to an idea. Like Harry Bosch's commitment was everybody matters or nobody matters. So he didn't care the color of your skin, if you were a junkie, if you were a rich white person, if you were like a prostitute, if you were like a little kid, an old person, whatever. He didn't care. The victim was the victim. And he was going to work just as hard on behalf of solving the crime, the murder, whatever, regardless of their history, their background, their whatever. And he was committed to that. Commitment is a very sexy thing. You know what I'm saying? Like when people put a stake in the ground and they say, I'm committed to working this out. I'm committed to solving this problem with you. I'm committed to not walking away. I'm committed to putting in the time, the hours. I'm committed to beyond the idea. I'm committed to the living, breathing entity of this commitment. That is a powerful, powerful thing. And I want to kind of leave you with one of my favorite quotes. And it's supposedly from a climber, a mountaineer, William Hutchinson Murray, on the Scottish Himalayan expedition. And I'll read the full quote to you. Until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness. Concerning all acts of initiative and creation, there is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans. That the moment one definitely commits oneself, then Providence moves too. Let me say that part again because it's so powerful, okay? The ignorance of this will kill countless ideas and splendid plans, meaning not knowing this truth that I'm about to say will kill all your ideas. So it's important. So this is the part to lean in. The moment one definitely commits oneself, then Providence moves too. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events issues from that decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents, meetings, and material assistance, which no man could have dreamed would have come his way. I have learned a deep respect for one of Goethe's couplets. Whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now. And that is speaking to that action portion of the commitment. Until one's committed, he's saying there's this hesitancy, there's this ability for us to shuffle our feet and get wishy-washy and draw back. And that always leads to ineffectiveness. Nothing gets done that way. He's saying, like, concerning whenever you have an idea, concerning when you have an act of initiative or an opportunity to do something or create something, this one elementary truth, if you don't know this, it will kill your ideas, countless ideas. It will kill all your splendid plans. The moment you commit yourself, Providence will move too. And all these resources, the people, the places, the money, the meetings, like everything that would never have otherwise occurred until you committed, all of a sudden, a whole stream of events will show up. Things that you couldn't even dream of. And I remember when listening to Oprah talk, that time when I met her, and she said, God dreams a dream for me bigger than the one I can dream for myself. I'm paraphrasing, right? The divine, the universe, whatever you want to call it, the divine intelligence, your higher power, your highest self, right? There is something that dreams a dream for ourselves big enough, bigger than ever we could imagine, but we have to commit. And then once we commit, Providence will move too. How exciting is that? So remember, the universe can't get behind wishy-washy. We have to commit. So again, this is just an invitation, an enthusiastic invitation to encourage you to get serious about your life. We can get serious in a fun way, like sit down, like I said, get your colored pens, get out your highlighters, get your markers, start to dream into existence, right? And then follow it up with action. I'm in the business of commitment, right? If you're somebody who is also like into being committed and you're like, hey, I'm committed to like wanting to change some things, to transform some things. I'm committed to getting to really know and understand and love and trust myself more. That's the business I'm in. So you can always reach me. Just go to my website, KarenKenney.com, KENNEY.com. And there's a tab. I mean, there's lots of ways to work with me. Yoga, Thai yoga, body work, coaching, etc. Writing workshops, which I hope to be doing some more of, or salons and stuff this year. Okay. But remember, I'm in the commitment business. This is a great opportunity to ask yourself, right? What am I committed to this year? And I always love to hear from you. So if you want to throw me a note and let me know what you're committed to this year, I'd love to hear about it. Okay, wrapping it up. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're new here, welcome. I'm so happy you're here. If you're a loyal listener, you know how much I love and appreciate you. So thank you for being here and tuning in. Wherever you go, right? May you leave yourself and the animals and the people and the planet better than how you found it. Wherever you go, may you and your energy and your presence and your love and your commitment be a blessing. Bye.